Hey guys, so today we're going to be covering another installation in my top 10 units list for Dragon Ball Legends. This is going to be the May 2023 edition, so if you're watching this in the future, just keep that in mind. Now, before we get into the actual rankings, I always like to quickly discuss 3 points regarding this list, which are as follows. Number 1, all characters are considered at 14 stars, best teams, best equips, max title boost, etc. So essentially the best possible environment for each character, as I think it makes the most sense to judge each character at their maximum potential, and that's also how I've experienced using each character the most. Number 2, I like to view this list as a top 10 rankings of the best characters in the current meta environment instead of just, who are the 10 best characters in the game list, as the meta is constantly changing and evolving. So just because a character is ranked at number 5 on this list doesn't necessarily mean they'll always be better than the characters ranked 6 through 10. So please view this list as a current meta snapshot of the game instead of just a who's better than who list. Number 3, this list consists of rankings that are entirely of my own opinion, which has been formed from my personal experience playing the game. So please feel free to disagree with the list and let me know down below if you disagree and why. So those are the typical 3 things I like to mention before we jump into the video. So with this one in particular, I typically do not do honorable mentions anymore. I've sort of stepped away from doing that, but I think with the current environment of the game, right? So Ultra Kid Buu is the most recent released character, summonable character. We have the Purple Super Buu as well, I guess. I feel like there's 2 ways you can really look at the meta environment of this game. There is a macro view of the game, and there's a micro view of the game. Macro means more of like a broad bird's eye view of everything, and a micro view is individual units. So I think from a macro point of view, the game is actually in a pretty decent spot. I would say in comparison to most other metas we've seen recently and even in a while, there are actually a decent amount of usable teams and characters. So that's good. Thumbs up there from a macro perspective. From a micro perspective, when you take a look at like the best characters in the game and you look at how they're controlling the game, what are they doing to be good as characters, there are a lot of toxic mechanics that all those characters are bringing to the table. And so I think from a micro perspective, the meta is not really in a great spot because a lot of the best characters in the game are the best characters because they're doing something that is annoying, right? Or they're doing something that is not fun to fight against or just straight up toxic. So taking more of the information that I talked about via the macro perspective of the game, where there's a wide variety of usable characters and teams, I feel like it's probably warranted for this video in particular, the May 2023 edition of the list, to include some honorable mentions because there are more than 10 usable characters in the game, which funnily enough is actually kind of rare, I think. But so what I'm going to be doing is I will be including the honorable mentions, but I'm actually going to be including the honorable mentions in between slots 2 and 1 on this list. And the reason why I'm including them at the end is because if I show like the full 6 honorable mentions or 5 or however many they're going to be before the list, that's going to spoil a lot of the list for you guys. So I'm going to withhold showing the honorable mentions until we get to the number 1 spot. I'll show the honorable mentions before the number 1 character, and then we'll go into the number 1 character. So with that being said, let's go ahead and jump into the list itself. We'll start with number 10, and then we'll, of course, work our way down to number 1. Coming in at number 10 on the list, we have Blue Zamasu. One other thing I want to just quickly mention before we jump into the Zamasu is that I do want to try and shorten these videos a bit because I feel like the last few have been way too long. So I'm going to do my best to condense my thoughts and get everything out as fast as I can so we can move through this at a brisk pace here. So number 10 is Zamasu. I was very close to not even including this character in the top 10, but I think he just barely makes the cut. The main reason why I dropped him from the prior rankings is because I feel like there's just a more, there's just a bigger presence of Ultra Rose in the current meta, and that's just thanks to Kid Buu covering his weakness to purple, right? To Ultra Gogeta Blue. On the other hand, we have seen a slight uptick in the amount of Ultra hits that have appeared, just thanks to Kid Buu once again. So again, all these characters in this list are pretty much just going to be going up or down just due to the presence of Ultra Kid Buu and how he's affected the changes in the meta environment. I don't really see that many Ultra hits, even with Kid Buu being in the game right now. So if we begin to see more and more Ultra hits and they become more prominent, then this guy will move up because this guy is one of the 2 best counters in the game to Ultra hit next to Blue 17. But Blue Zamasu is still a pretty solid character. He gets so destroyed by Rose, and I think the setup where you're running the Zamasu next to Rose, I feel like less comfortable using that setup. Like Rose, Zamasu, and Kid Buu, I think is a really good build, but I don't feel as comfortable switching into this character anymore, especially with how many, even still with Kid Buu flying around, how many Gogeta Blues are you're facing, right? He can just rush this character. How many Rosés you're fighting, he completely destroys this character. So like two of the three most prominent characters out of Kid Buu, Rose, and Ultra Gogeta Blue. I still think Rose and Gogeta Blue are the two most prominent, the characters that you encounter the most often. This guy doesn't really fare well against either of them. But with that being said, he still has some really good tools at his disposal to stall, buy time, provide healing, a lot of intangibles, key reduction, endurance, stuff like that. So pretty good character still, solid addition to pretty much any team. But I definitely feel like his, value has decreased recently with the increased usage of Rosé, and, not as increased usage of hit that we've seen recently. So Zamasu number 10, let's move on to number 9. Coming in at number 9 on the list, we have Red Transforming Cell here. I think this character was a very solid addition to the game, granted that he was a Legends Mega Rising character, which I'm pretty much just going to equate to Legends All-Star, because it's pretty much the same banner, it's just been rebranded as Legends Mega Rising, right? So this character's really good. I think he does actually fill a decent role as a pseudo counter towards Kid Buu. Really solid character all around. I don't really have any complaints about this character. I think one issue technically is that on the Android setup specifically, that team is of course very blast based right now, and obviously with the Cell being strike based, he doesn't fit as well on that team. But I think with Blue 17 you can really sort of make anything work, right? But this guy obviously fits way better on Future, right? You run this guy in Future with a bunch of the other strike characters, with Rosé. Of course, Rosé covers this Cell's weakness to blue characters, but there really aren't that many like really, really annoying blue characters right now. Like 17 is still here. You see him. I see him a lot still. We see Beast Gohan every now and then. I think Beast Gohan I've seen a lot more recently, just because there's been a lot more increase in the usage of red characters, which then of course makes blue characters more likely. Not hit specifically, it's more so like this Cell, and then I've actually seen a lot of people using UI Goku, so I guess that's why people are starting to bring back Beast Gohan. But Blue Zamasu, another one. So you run into these blue characters every now and then, but there really isn't like a super mega, like crushingly powerful blue character, right? You take a look at the 4 main ultras right now. There's a purple one, there's a red one, there's a yellow one, and there's a green one. So there's no really like, oh my god, game-defining blue ultra character. So that's why I feel comfortable putting the Cell at number 9 here. I think he does fulfill his role pretty well. He's able to nullify Kid Buu's endurance with his main ability into the blue card. Does a lot of damage. This guy gets his Vanish back twice. He's a very slippery character. The healing is pretty good. So all around a really solid release. I think when you switch into this character, when the enemy is below half HP, he becomes like an incredibly powerful character. He's insanely good. I found that during my God rank grind with this character, I think it was either last season, no, I think it was actually 2 seasons ago, when I did my like 3-hour long God rank grind, there were a lot of cases where I would switch in with this transform Cell when the enemy was under half HP, and I felt like I just had a guaranteed kill on anybody, right? Going type neutral and getting cover null, and you draw a green card to refill your hand and get a bunch of damage buffs. Like, that's insanely powerful. So this Cell, I think, is a very strong addition to the Future team. Like, Future needed more buffs. And if the Android team ever decides to go more strike-based in the future, then you could always have this guy fulfill that role as well. And don't forget Regen, too. I think Regen actually does get a pretty decent buff with this Cell, but I think Regen is like one character away from being a very top-tier team. Of course, with Ultra Kid Buu as well, being a strike-based character paired up with the Cell. If Regen gets one more really powerful character, which I think is very likely in the anniversary that we might end up getting Orange Piccolo to fill that role, we could see Regen sort of take the reins as one of the best teams in the game for sure. So Red Cell's at number 9 here on the list. Let's move on to number 8. Alrighty, moving on to number 8, we have the Tag 4s. I actually think that this character didn't move at all from my prior list. I think they were also number 8 on the prior list. This character really hasn't been that affected by the release of Ultra Kid Buu. I guess the one indirect thing is that Purple 17 on the GT setup with this character is probably a little bit less valuable now. Because of Ultra Kid Buu releasing. Like, I think I kind of wanted to include Purple 17 on this list. He was very close to making it on number 10 with a few other characters too. But I feel like Kid Buu being as prominent as he is, with being as used as he is, with how strong he is, I barely didn't include 17 on the list. And I think the downswing in 17's usability, just because of Kid Buu, it's not huge. I still think he's good enough to be used, of course. That Purple 17 is a very, very good character. But that slight downswing, I guess, indirectly knocks this character a bit. But I don't really have like a super in-depth analysis to talk about with this character. They're still pretty solid. They're one of my most hated characters. I just think they're really annoying to fight against. The AoE green card, the cover null. They feel like, again, the analogy I'm going to use with this character is they feel like a gnat. They're hitting you with like a million cards, and most of the time, not really doing much damage until they go back into Goku, right? So I feel like they're pretty solid right now, still in the meta. Against a lot of these annoying blue characters like Zamasu 17 and Beast, they do perform pretty well. And even against a character like Gogeta Blue, the Vegeta side can do some work. But I feel like one big issue, not with this character, but with something that they, I think, made a mistake with, is which we'll talk about later on, is the tag Super Saiyan 3 Goku and Vegeta. The Vegeta side has permanent type advantage over this character, and I think if that character was just a little bit better, we would potentially see a bit of a fall off on this character. But I don't think that Super Saiyan 3 Goku and Super Saiyan 2 Vegeta characters at the level where this character really is like ultra threatened by their presence. So I'm going to leave them at 8. I'm not really going to move them up or down. I feel like they're kind of just in the mix still as a pretty decent unit. So number 8, Tag Force. Let's move on to number 7. Alrighty, number 7, we have Revival UI Goku. People are going to continue to call me dumb for having this guy even in my list at all. And I'm just going to keep putting him on the list as well, as long as I feel he's deserving of it. And I do definitely think this guy is still deserving of being on the list here at number 7. I think what happened actually is this character actually ended up swapping spots with the Tag 4s. So on the prior list, I think I had this guy at 8 and the Tag 4s were at 7. Is that how it went? Something like that. I don't remember. But this guy is now slightly ahead of the Tag 4s. It's not that big of a deal. I'm going to be completely honest with you guys. I think spots like 5 through 10 on this list, you can theoretically move around pretty freely. There's not really like a gigantic gap in between the top 5 through 10 on the list here. I think once you get into 1 through 4, that's when things sort of take a turn for like a different tier of character. So 1 through 4 are pretty much set in stone, at least in my opinion, in terms of like them being in their own bucket almost. But Goku here at number 7, I think the main thing with me is just the fact that we are seeing, I guess, people, more hesitant to bring Ultra Gogeta Blue with Kid Buu being around now. Not really that big of a change for this character. The big issue with this character prior to Kid Buu releasing was just Gogeta just walling this guy off permanently. So with, the fact that we're encountering overall less good, like Gogeta Blue, you would encounter every match without question prior to Kid Buu releasing. I think in my God rank grind, I found like 48 out of 50 matches were Gogeta or something like that. So this guy was a little bit tough to use, not unusable completely, because again, this guy still is able to go type neutral, able to pick up a bunch of Dragon Balls with his pre-revival form, and the UI Omen form itself was still able to pick up a bunch of Dragon Balls, double card draw speed, cover null, almost for like the rest of the fight essentially. And the fact that he has revival, I think, is a pretty important tool right now. A lot of times right now, with how easy it is for characters like Kid Buu to start combos with their AoE green cards, with the cover null, with Rose, just having infinite card draw speed, it's really important to have a backup plan. And this character having a revival is a really good backup plan in case you have to just end up sacking off a character. So I think this character does bring a lot to the table, and he will continue to be on my list as long as I think he is worth it, and I think he is worth it right now. So number 7 is Revival UI Goku. Let's move on to number 6. Number 6 on the list is going to be LF Beast Gohan. I think he was also 6 on my prior list. No, I think he was 5. He was 5. I think what happened was, because obviously, spoiler alert, Kid Buu is in the top 4. So I think what happened was I just put in Kid Buu above this character, and he sort of like stayed at the same ranking. So I think the addition of Kid Buu in terms of how it affected this character, it's kind of a net neutral. Pan gets a little bit of extra value from Kid Buu being in the game, because obviously Kid Buu's yellow and Pan is red. So Pan does actually have a pretty buffed up role for herself on a team with this Beast Gohan, because she's able to tank Kid Buu's attacks. She's actually one of the more annoying characters to fight with Kid Buu because of the key reduction as well, even though Kid Buu kind of neutralizes it with his key that he gets per card, but she does help deter Kid Buu's onslaught a lot. But then the negative effect of Kid Buu's addition is that Rose is a lot less in check now than he was, right? So Ultra Rosé's release, of course, we still had the monstrous Ultra Gogeta Blue, who was literally unchecked. Like, Ultra Gogeta Blue, again, I saw him every single match without question. Like, if you weren't running Ultra Gogeta Blue, you were losing. Like, that's just the way it was. And so Rosé was sort of in his shadow for the time being. Now with Kid Buu out, at least Gogeta Blue has a check, and people are a lot more hesitant to run him. And so we are seeing a massive upswing in the amount of people using Ultra Rosé right now. He's sort of just almost an unmatchable character right now, but that I think does negatively affect this Gohan. I don't think it's great. I don't think it's like this Gohan's crazy. He's unusable. Like you're crazy if you run this character like that. I don't think it's at that level. Remember, this Gohan does have type neutrality. I think it was for the first like 5 switch-ins or something like that. So he's not like a massive disadvantage against Rosé. But Rosé does have the type neutrality removal ability with his blue card, but then you just switch, right? This is pretty much, I'm going to say the same exact comment I said on the prior list when I talked about this character. This is pretty much the definition of a carry unit. Like, you build the team around this character, and then this character just is the character you use to win the matches. So I think with hybrids sort of being not as good as the rest of the game, or as the rest of the top teams in the game are right now, that does hurt this character. But I think as soon as we start seeing more hybrid Saiyans get added, potentially a hybrid Saiyan Ultra character, which we don't have yet, some more support for the team, I think at that point this character will definitely start to be seen as one of the best characters in the game again, because he just does everything. I mean, even still to this day, he does all the things you would want out of a carry unit. So he is at number 6 right now, but I could definitely see him moving up depending on what we see in the future for his teams getting buffed. So Beast Gohan number 6. Let's talk about number 5. Coming in at number 5, we have LF Android 17. This might end up being a bit of a controversial one, I guess. I've seen a lot of people not liking this character as much recently, which I guess makes sense, right? Rosé is very prominent in the meta right now, and of course this character does not particularly fare that well against Ultra Rosé, but I would say he does pretty good against the entire rest of the game. But I will admit, it is pretty important to do well against Rosé. But what I'll say about this character is he pretty much is the polar opposite of what we just discussed for Beast Gohan. So Beast Gohan and this character, like, they literally could not be more different. Beast Gohan is, once again, a carry unit. You want to build a team around Beast Gohan, and he will be the one that carries you to victory. 17 is a character you want to build the team around a different... So you want to use 17 to build the team around somebody else. He will be providing the other characters with, additional mechanics and additional buffs to help take down the enemy. He has the arts power down when the enemy uses a blue card or an ultimate. He has the team heal. He has the uncancelable endurance. He has the double vanish. He has the cut penetration support. He's able to extend combos really far because he has the blast card draw. He has a very, very, 30 counts of cover null on main ability. He gets cover null when his full gauge is activated when he uses green cards. Like, this character is a really powerful, just like second best character on your team. That's what I was calling him when he first released. Like, this is going to be the second best character on your team, pretty much, like, forever. Like, I definitely see this character aging potentially just as well as Future Gohan did. Pretty much just like the best leader slot character in the game. You put him on literally any team and he's good to go. He's going to make your team feel a lot better. It's going to make your team a lot more survivable. He's going to allow your team to actually do something, right? So I think this character is, I think at this point, honestly, pretty underrated by a lot of people. The fact that he himself is not like tanking and destroying Ultra Rosé, I don't think is as big of a deal as people are making it out to be. I will admit, it would be nice if the best, I don't want to call Rosé the best character in the game, but it would be nice if, like, the most annoying character in the game, I will definitely call Rosé the most annoying character in the game, was not green, so that this character could thrive a little bit more. But I think this character definitely does still have the tools at his disposal to not completely get shut down by Rosé. And I think what he's bringing to the table for every other character you're using with him is just too good to really ignore and knock him too much for that. If you want to put this character a few slots down on this list, I would be okay with that. This character's like, I'm not saying like, oh yeah, he's definitely number 5, unswappable with any other character on this list. Like, I don't think that. But I definitely am comfortable with him at number 5, and I think he definitely is good enough to be there. And I definitely see this character potentially just out-aging the rest of this list. So We will see how that plays out, but this is going to be LS17 at number 5. I think he's just providing too much for the rest of the characters on this list and in the game to really ignore to be put on this list here. So let's move on to the top 4. I think the top 4 are pretty expected here, but number 4 might be a bit surprising to you guys here. Alrighty, number 4 is Ultra Gogeta Blue. Of course, this is actually probably my most controversial place on this list. It's tough, right? I think the next 4 characters are pretty self-explanatory that they're in the top 4. I guess it's just the placements within the top 4 that might be a little bit, I guess, controversial here. But I have Gogeta at number 4. I think Ultra Kid Boo's presence, because here's the thing, with Ultra Kid Boo being released, right? Obviously, this is a result of Ultra Kid Boo being yellow, and honestly, being specifically designed to counter this unit. I think even with Ultra Kid Boo as, you know, omnipresent as he is in the current meta, and with how targeting he is to just get rid of this character, the fact that this Gogeta is still at number 4 is a testament to how absurd this character is. Like, honestly, think about that. Think about Ultra Kid Boo, how good he is, how pinpoint designed his kit is to get rid of this guy and just completely chuck him away. And this guy is still number 4 on this list. That is pretty insane. I mean, it's not like Kid Boo releasing completely kills this character. This character still has the single best unique gauge in the entire game. Honestly, pretty much the single best mechanic in the entire game, with essentially just having a self-cover change. He's able to go type neutral, so even against enemy Kid Boos, he's able to do a lot of... Like, I've definitely had instances where I've been using this character, and I'm able to just kill the enemy Kid Boo because I use my green card to go type neutral, pop my ultimate, and he's just dead. The Vanish Recovery, the Endurance Nullification on the Rising Rush. Like, he's again, this character is just ridiculous. The embodiment of just not fair is what this character is. But with that being said, the reason why I have him at number 4 is because I think they did a good job with having Kid Boo not only be an offensive counter to Gogeta Blue, but he also is a defensive counter to Gogeta Blue. They gave Kid, like, if they didn't give Kid Boo this mechanic, then I think Gogeta Blue would still have an argument to be like 2 or even 1 on the list still. They gave Kid Boo the essentially what 17 has, so slightly worse version of it, where if Ultra Gogeta Blue rushes this Kid Boo, the endurance nullification mechanic he gets in the rush gets nullified by Kid Boo. So you actually can't just rush Kid Boo with Gogeta because you won't be able to nullify his endurance. I mean, you can rush him, but you won't kill him because he'll have his endurance left. So the fact that they gave Kid Boo pretty much a perfect defensive counter to this Gogeta Blue on top of his offensive counter that he has against this Gogeta, I mean, the green card being an AoE, cover null granting, strike card switching, priority gaining ability, like, it doesn't get more pinpoint targeted counter than that against this character. So with all that being said, I kind of will value the remaining 3 characters over this guy right now. One other slight thing I can say about this Gogeta Blue being at number 4 now is obviously with Kid Boo being yellow, we've seen again, I'm not going to say a massive uptick, but a slight uptick in the amount of Ultra Hits flying around. And I think Ultra Hit is a pretty fair counter to this character. Like, Ultra Hit catches this guy on a time skip, he's dead. It's that simple. He's just dead. So Ultra Hit is a pretty good counter to this character if you catch him in a time skip, which is not that hard to do, right? So I have this guy at number 4. I could understand if you want to put him a slot or 2 higher. This is probably gonna earn me quite a bit of thumbs downs in this video. So if you want to go ahead and do that, I don't really care. This is my opinion, but Ultra Gogeta Blue is number 4. I think, again, it is a pretty big testament to how good this character is that he's even at number 4 with as big of a targeted counter that we have in the game to him right now. But there we go. So let's move on to number 3. All right, so coming in at number 3, we have Ultra Hit. So I'm just going to straight up say basically the rest of the list, because you guys, at this point, you guys know the rest of the list. I'm not going to give out number 1 and 2, but I will say this. I think there is a very strong argument to make for this character right here, Ultra Hit, for Ultra Rose Goku Black, and for Ultra Kid Boo to all be number 1. If you are somebody who thinks that any of those characters are number 1, I would just say, okay. Like, I'm not going to really argue with that, because they're all viable characters to be number 1 in the game right now. And I think that is specifically the reason why this meta, from a macro point of view, which I talked about in the beginning of this video, is actually in a pretty good spot. Right, you don't have a clear, definitive number 1 character in the game, which I think we did have with Ultra Gogeta Blue for a while. But now that we have a clear target against him with this Ultra Kid Buu, we sort of have a more healthy balance of different teams floating around, because there isn't just one clear-cut best character / best team, right? So that's why I really think there's not like one head honcho sort of just sitting at the top right now. You can really have Hit, you can have Kid Buu, or you could have Rose at number 1 on the list. I ended up going with Hit at number 3, and this is not really a knock against Hit, because I think Hit did gain a lot of value with Ultra Kid Buu releasing. Of course, Ultra Kid Buu is yellow, and of course, Ultra Hit is going to just straight up annihilate Kid Buu with a time skip, and just from straight up combos as well, he's going to destroy him. But I just think Kid Buu and Rose are a little bit more obnoxious, number 1, which makes it a lot easier for them to be usable. Like, Ultra Hit is not really doing anything super obnoxious, and it really does feel like if you're not doing something toxic or obnoxious, then you're just not good enough. Like, that sounds so bad, but it's just true, I think. Like, I wouldn't really consider the time skip to be cancerous or toxic. I could understand if you think that, and I think it's like half toxic, half not toxic. Like, you get touched once by this character and you're dead with the time skip. But it does take some level of understanding of how it works and some level of skill to utilize it to its fullest. This character's really good. Again, I'm not saying that I think Kid Buu and Rose are just straight up better, but I think right now in the current meta environment, Rose and Kid Buu, I think, serve as a better tool to use to rank up, right? And that's really the main factor I'm looking at, right? So if you're somebody who's gunning for rank 1, if you're somebody who's gunning for God rank or top 50, top whatever, like the top hemisphere of the game in terms of ranks, I think I would slightly value Kid Buu and Ultra Rose higher. I think the combination of those two characters together, even on like just a future setup, is just it's too strong. Like, Ultra Hit is a good deterrent to that team build, but I mean, Rose gets going on there. You have a counter to Gogeta Blue. You can run a Blue Zamasu on that team as well to deter Hit as well. Like, that's the team I was using. I was using Kid Buu, Rose, and Blue Zamasu. And the main reason why I was using Blue Zamasu is because I was scared of Hit with that setup. So you can throw on that, really powerful blue unit to deter Hit's time skip. That Blue Zamasu is Blue Zamasu in combination with Blue 17, I think, are the two best counters to Hit's time skip mechanics. So the fact that you can run Blue Zamasu on the team together with Kid Buu and Ultra Rose and have it work really well on the future build with like Mai's HP buff and the Zenkai buffs for Rose and stuff like it's just too good. It's just too strong. And that is the main reason why I have Kid Buu and Rose above this character. But this character is still insanely good. I think in the right hands of somebody who knows what they're doing with this character, this character does have a very solid argument of being number 1. So if you do think that, I will not really argue against you, but in my opinion, I think Kid Buu and Rose are slightly ahead here. So Hit at number 3. Let's move on to number 2. Man, this was a tough decision. I was sitting here and looking at my screen at both these characters for a while. Of course, I have Rose at number 2, so obviously that means Kid Buu is number 1. So we'll just get that out of the way right now. It was tough. Again, if you want to say Rose, you have him at number 1. I will not argue against you. Rose is absurdly powerful. I think a lot of his value, of course, is from the blue card. We have the multiple stacks of card draw speed he's able to get from the enemy switching. He has a really nice green card, able to heal himself, draw a blue card, draw a strike card. He actually does have a way of dealing with Gogeta Blue's gauge by, launching a blue card when Rose has a attribute downgrade like bleed. It allows him to not be able to connect with the blue card after he counters, right? Able to go type neutral with the main ability. He can launch up to 3 ultimates in one fight. A lot of healing. He has insane defensive utility, right? He goes type neutral on cover change. He lowers card draw speed. He's destroying Dragon Balls. Cover change against, this guy's he just essentially just doing everything in the game almost. Just a ridiculously powerful character that is even stronger now than he was on the prior list, because of course we have Ultra Kid Buu, who's able to fill the one gap in this Rose's kit, which was his weakness to purple characters, which, the main one being Ultra Gogeta Blue, which we have a very, very targeted counter now with Kid Buu against Ultra Gogeta Blue. So now Rose, again, still is going to struggle a little bit with Ultra Gogeta Blues, but then you just switch into Kid Buu and you win. Right, so this character essentially right now doesn't really have many rivals right now. I mean, besides Ultra Gogeta Blue, like what purples are you really running into? Purple 17 is the only other one I can really think of right now, and again, you just go into Kid Buu, and that's really that. There's that issue out the window. But yeah, I mean, this character is ridiculous. Probably the most annoying character in recent times since Cooler for me. The blue card is just too good. I think the blue card should have been a long animation because it becomes a coin flip too often in the fights when people just launch that from long range. And I think his partnership with Kid Buu, that's the ultimate reason why Gogeta Blue fell to number 4 on my list, and why we have the top 2 on the list being Rose and Kid Buu. So I'll conclude my thoughts with Rose here, and we'll go ahead and move on to the honorable mentions. I will go ahead and show you guys the 6 honorable mentions I had, and from there we'll go ahead and talk about number 1 on the list. All right, so here are my honorable mentions. We have Red Pan, we have Vegeta and Trunks, Purple 17, the Purple Super Saiyan Trunks, we have Evolution Blue Vegeta, the Zenkai one, and then of course we have Super Saiyan 3 Goku and Super Saiyan 2 Vegeta, the tag character, the new tag character. I'm not going to really go too much in depth here because I don't want this video to go on for too long. I think when it comes to, could you include these characters on the list? I think there is an argument to be had for every single one of these characters, except maybe for Trunks. I think the purple Trunks, I don't really see him making the top 10. I think he's a very good character, and I think they did a good job with him. I think he's a little bit actually too underrepresented right now. I think he deserves to be used more than he is right now, but I'm not really sure how many people summon for him right on the banner with Cell. Very good character. I think he does have a pretty solid role in the future on I used him on that hit build, the hit Rose and Blue Zamasu build. I actually swapped out Zamasu for this Trunks because I feel like he fulfilled the role a little bit better on that team for what that third character was supposed to be doing. But yeah, he's good. I just think the other 5 characters are a little bit more valuable for their teams than that Trunks is, so I think I'd prefer to use those other characters over him. And if you were going to make an argument for any of those characters to be on the list, I think all 5 could make it over the Trunks. One other character that I couldn't fit on this team here for honorable mentions is the Zenkai Yellow Super Saiyan 4 Goku. I think he's still really good. GT definitely has seen a decent decline recently, not anything too crazy, but you could definitely slot him into the honorable mentions as well. The one character I do want to talk a little bit about is the newest one, which is this character over here. So for this character, I think with this being their first time really testing out the preparation mechanic or the preparation mode or the transcendent Kamehameha mode, whatever you want to call it, that sort of phase where the enemy can't rush and you can't switch or whatever. Because this was their first time dealing with that mechanic, I think they might have just undertuned it a little bit. Right, during the initial testing phase of this character, where day 1 we were using him, it felt ridiculously overpowered. But as we started to fight better players that had more stars on their characters, players that had better team builds, better equipment, etc., I started to experience times where this character's transcendent Kamehameha wouldn't even do half of the HP of the enemy team. And for a mechanic that you basically spend the entire match preparing for and building up towards, it doesn't really feel like the payoff is as good as it should be. And it's not just that. It's the fact that this character is missing a lot of tools that a lot of other modern characters have access to. This character doesn't restore Vanishing Gauge. This character doesn't really have... They don't have Endurance Nullification on their blue cards, which is really strange for a tag character. I guess they sort of just wanted to move that over to the Transcendent Kamehameha, but they should have also had that on their blue cards because that would have made them a lot better. As always, the Vegeta side just feels a little bit lackluster, right? Vegeta's supposed to be the defensive part of this character, but he doesn't get card draw speed and he doesn't get cover null, so it just feels very awkward when you're trying to fulfill the tag conditions, and Vegeta doesn't really help out in that regard. And the main issue I've encountered with this character, and I've said this many times throughout my videos using them, but they have massive key issues. And the main reason is right here. I'll show you guys right away. So this character, their main key mechanic, in addition to just cost reduction, is this. They gain 50 key on entry, but that's it. They don't have key recovery in their kit anywhere, right? And that, I feel, is the biggest issue with this character. A lot of times when we get these really powerful headlining LFs or Ultra characters, you see 100% to key recovery or 70% to key recovery. Or, for example, characters like Ultra Kid Buu, who just straight up gain ki per card they draw. So this character not having access to that makes it a lot harder for them to actually chain together their cards. Like, you know what this should have been? This should have been 50 ki when faced with an enemy, right? So if the enemy switches, they would then gain an additional 50 ki. That would have made a massive difference for this character, I think. Because again, I find myself very frequently running out of ki with this character. And that is a massive issue because, again, their whole mechanic and their whole concept is you want to get and cycle through the tags so you can get to the Transcendent Kamehameha. So I feel like this character falls short across a variety of different aspects. And for that reason, I put them in the honorable mentions and I didn't put them on the list. And I think there is merit in that too, because last God rank grind that I did, I will tell you guys straight up, I fought that character maybe once. It's like, with a character as hype as that, Super Saiyan 3 Goku and Super Saiyan 2 Vegeta from the Kid Buu fight, a tag character, like the end of Dragon Ball Z, that is a hype character. And to fight like almost none of them in PvP, that is very, very disappointing to see. So that's why I have them in honorable mentions. And that's really only a negative view of the character. I still think they're actually pretty good, right? They're not like, oh my god, they're so bad they're unusable. Like that's not the case at all. They're still a good unit and they can still put in work. It's just when you compare the character to the rest of the top units in the game, I think they do fall off a little bit in comparison to them when you're talking about straight up performance. So these are the 6 honorable mentions on my list. I think, again, you can pretty much swap in any of these 5 besides Trunks on the top 10 if you wanted to. I wouldn't have any issue with that. But let's go ahead and jump into our number 1 character in the list, which we have alluded to the entire time of this video so far. Coming in at number 1 on my top 10 best units list, May 2023 edition, is going to be Ultra Kid Buu here. The biggest targeted counter to Gogeta Blue that we've seen. I think it was necessary. I think Gogeta Blue was running around for far too long as the best character uncontested, so I think this is very healthy for the game from a macro viewpoint that we did end up getting this character here. It sort of opens up the game for the rest of the characters in the game to actually do stuff, right? We can't just have the same character be the best forever, right? So eventually there's going to have to be some kind of power shift here. And I think they actually did a good job with this because I don't actually think Kid Buu, from a straight up power creep perspective, is just straight up better than Gogeta Blue in every way, right? The reason why this Kid Buu was a good release, in my opinion, is because, again, he countered Gogeta Blue, which we didn't have before, and so that sort of creates a level playing field, because I would argue that every character on this list has at least some character that's able to counter them pretty hard. So the fact that we now have that with this Kid Buu versus Gogeta, I think does actually bode as a good thing for the game. The downside to that is this character does bring a lot of very toxic mechanics into play, which is, again, the micro perspective, looking at the individual mechanics the character's bringing to the table here. I just think, you guys have had enough time to really experience this character, either playing with him or playing against him, or seeing gameplay that I've uploaded or that other YouTubers have uploaded. You guys understand how this character is. You guys understand how good he is, what he brings to the table. I think one of the big things that we can say with this character is it's not just offense, right? He's not just an overwhelming offensive force, which I think he actually is, right? His blue card locking in and getting vanish back multiple times for the blue card, the double card draw speed, the infinite ki, infinite combo potential from the green card. But it's also the fact that he's healing every time he draws a card. He's healing when his gauge is broken. He's destroying cards when his gauge is depleted. Like, he's doing a lot of intangible defensive abilities as well. And I feel that this character is just, it's too easy, right? It's too easy with that green card to really start combos. Basically, the way I like to think about it is it's sort of like an AoE version of the LF Android 17 green card, which is insane. Imagine that being an AoE. It's so stupid. You just press that and you get it's not only that you get priority and the enemy can't do anything. If you land that green card while you have your gauge filled up, like, you win. You win the game. Like, you could lock in the opponent with your blue card. You can get your vanish back. His AoE, or his ultimate does AoE damage. This character, honestly, he just feels like a cheat code almost sometimes. And again, I will reiterate what I said about this character that I did with Rose. I feel like if you wanted to put Rose at number 1 over this Kid Buu, I feel like you could do that, right? I'm not at all saying that this Kid Buu is, without question, de facto number 1 in the game. Like, no, I think Rose is in that argument as well. And I also think Hit could be in that argument as well. So I don't really think this is anything set in stone here. But at least in my experience, the way that I felt both using this character and playing against this character, he just feels too overwhelming right now. So we'll see what the anniversary brings, because that's when I expect to receive the next character. We shouldn't really get another banner in March before the anniversary, unless it's a filler banner, like they bring back Ultra Hit or something, which I think they probably will in January, or not January, in May, bringing back Ultra Hit here. But yeah, anniversary, I'm excited to see how they do that, because we're in a pretty delicate time here for the game. I think, again, from a macro viewpoint, there are a lot of viable teams, a lot of viable characters, but we'll see what kind of toxic mechanics are introduced during the anniversary, because I'm sure there will be multiple of those. So number 1 on this list is going to be Ultra Kid Buu. We'll just quickly go through the rest of the list here that we already discussed. So number 10, we had Blue Zamasu. Number 9, we had the Red Transforming Cell. Number 8, we had the tag Super Saiyan 4 Goku and Vegeta. Number 7, we had Revival UI Goku. Number 6 was Beast Gohan. Number 5 was LF Android 17. Number 4 was Ultra Gogeta Blue. Number 3 was Ultra Hit. Number 2 was Ultra Rose Goku Black. And then number 1 is Ultra Kid Buu. As always, let me know down below if you guys agree with this list, disagree with this list, and if you do disagree, what parts do you disagree with? Please feel free to tell me how dumb I am. I'm a big boy, I can take it. So, hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you all in the next one.